So today I'm going to be showing you how I travel with my airbrush system. So if you are interested, please keep watching. So when I travel with my airbrush system, I do travel with it separate from my makeup. So in this video, I'm just going to strictly show you my airbrush system and what I have it in and the essential items that I carry with it when I travel. So my airbrush system and all the essential items are usually stored in a bag like this. Has a nice little handle. The zipper opens all the way, you know, so that I'm not tugging or pulling on anything, and my compressor, hose, gun, nothing gets damaged. This bag I believe I picked up at Target, but you can find these bags at any I guess any retail store. I've seen them at Walmart, I've seen them at Ulta, I've even seen them at some drugstores, but I picked this one up at Target and it was about $10. And this is where I like to keep my airbrush gun and everything. The essential items that I use with my airbrush gun, really they become a part of my system just because I use it every day all the time. I know that I must have these items for my routine. So one of the essential items is tissue. Always travel with tissue. Usually if you're staying in a hotel, you know, they'll have boxes of tissue there. But if you're staying at a relative's house or a friend's house, or if you're just on the go, these come in handy. I picked this up in a 3-pack at Target for about $1, so I always keep this with my system. Another item I always keep with my system is Q-tips, and Q-tip, the brand actually makes them in nice little travel containers, and you can pick this up at Target or Walmart or any drugstore, of course, if you're on the go. I always get a few of these from Target and just kind of have them stored away for when I need to travel. That way, you know, I'm not constantly going to the store. But these come in handy and they're very important with maintaining your airbrush gun. You always want to make sure, especially when you're on the road and you're not soaking your airbrush gun, that you're cleaning out the cup, you're cleaning out the nozzle tip, and you're just taking really good care of your airbrush. For someone like me who uses their airbrush and compressor all the time, it's very, very essential to go ahead and make sure that you're following the proper maintenance practices with your machine, just to extend the life of course, your airbrush and compressor. Another item that I do like to travel with, and it is part of my system, is water and cleaner. These little bottles I picked up at airbrushmakeup.com, and I believe they're like $1, maybe $1 and some change. But any little dropper bottle will work. I conveniently labeled mine because I do have a label maker here. Yes, I'm OCD organized, but you know, how many of us really aren't? Anyways, I do travel with one for water and one for my airbrush cleaner. Now the airbrush cleaner that I use usually corresponds to the brand of makeup that I'm bringing with me. So because Dinair is primarily the brand that I use, especially every day and on the road, I will bring their cleaner with me. And the neat thing that I like about these bottles is that, one, the dropper is awesome. Two, the caps are universal on all of their bottles. This is pretty much how the tops are on the larger bottles of makeup. I believe it's the largest bottle that Dinair offers. So if ever your little dropper part is ever to go bad, you just want to clean out, of course not with tap water, always use bottled water. You just want to clean out the top of it, and then you can use it as a replacement for these bottles here. Now what I like about these bottles is that, like I said, their parts correspond with the larger makeup bottles. And when I mean the parts, I mean this little piece right here, which normally you would probably throw away when you got one of the larger makeup bottles just because it prevents any makeup from coming through, can really come in handy when you're traveling with your kit. Just because you want to make sure that nothing spills around the airbrush and compressor. Now because I keep this in the same bag as my airbrush and compressor, it's really essential to have one of these caps. That way you can avoid any damage coming to your compressor or gun. Also, just a quick tip, if you are new to airbrush makeup, or if you're not that familiar with airbrush makeup, I'm going to tell you now, never ever ever use tap water in your airbrush gun, because tap water has a bunch of minerals and things in it that can essentially over time clog your gun. You always want to make sure that you use purified or distilled water. Usually when I travel, I don't really travel with the water container filled up, just because you can get bottled water pretty much anywhere. So I like to just have bottled water with me. Of course, don't use the water that you've been drinking out of, because the proteins in your saliva, of course, will clog your gun as well. But use a fresh bottle of water, and you can just fill it up right when you settle into wherever you're staying, and then just empty it before you leave, just as an extra precaution so that you make sure that you don't have anything around your airbrush gun that can potentially damage it. Water could potentially damage it if water were to spill around your compressor and sit there. You'd be in a world of trouble. You'll end up buying a whole new kit, and you don't want that. Along with the items that I just showed you, I do travel with, of course, the essential things that come in the original kit. Now, I have the Diner Airbrush kit. It was the first kit that I started out with, and I'm going to show you, of course, my older model, just because my newer model's on the counter, and I really don't want to move it. I don't disturb it. Like, I use my airbrush kit every day, and I really don't want to have to reset it up, so I am going to be showing you with my older model, but just know I do have the newer model with the newer airbrush gun. And what I like to bring with my kit, of course, is the caps. And I'll also bring the rubber band as well. Now, when you're traveling, you really want to make sure that you bring 2 rubber bands, just because if something happens to one of them, you always want to make sure that you have a backup. And the rubber bands can be found at any office supply store, or pretty much any store that sells office supplies. You can find those kind of rubber bands. Just look for the ones that are a little bit thicker, about that thick, instead of the little tiny ones, and you'll be fine. So how I travel with my actual compressor, of course, I travel with the gun in the case. The hose, of course, is attached to the gun at all times. I don't want to keep disconnecting the hose and things like that, just because eventually the part where it connects will wear, and then you'll have to deal with that problem of it slipping off all the time. My gun, of course, is a new CX gun, even on my older kit. When Diner had a sale, I actually picked up another gun, just because the CX gun is so much more superior to the JX airbrush gun. I wanted to make sure that I had 2 of them, so I did pick up another CX. But of course, I have the little gripper on my gun, and it just sits in the little travel pouch that came with my kit. And then, of course, the hose. The hose is usually coiled up. That way there's no kinks in it, or nothing happens to it when, of course, when I'm traveling. And then, of course, my compressor. My compressor does have the AC adapter attached to it. Like I said, I keep everything attached to it because I feel like if I keep removing it, eventually the joints are going to like wear, and things are not going to be sturdy and stay in there. So you really recommend that you keep things attached to your airbrush gun, especially when you're traveling, and just try to avoid unplugging and taking everything apart, because the parts will eventually wear, guys, so you don't want that to happen. Another item that I usually travel with, which I don't have readily on me, is the car adapter. Now, I picked up a car adapter on airbrushmakeup.com for about, I don't know, I think it was like $10. I want to say it was about $10. Anyways, I picked up one of those, and let me tell you, it has come in handy, especially in those moments where I did not have time to get ready before I had to leave, and I was in the car for a really long time. If you think that you cannot do airbrush makeup on the move, think again, because you can. I've done it, and if I can do it, all of you can do it. So it's really essential to have the car charger, not necessarily because you intend to use it every time, but just for those instances where there might have been an emergency, or you need to hurry, or you're in a rush, or you're late for something. It's really nice to have that in there. Also, it gives you the opportunity to go ahead and touch up if ever you need to touch up between venues or between events or wherever you're going. So it's really nice to have that car charger with you in your kit. So that's pretty much it for this video. So far I've shown you all of the essentials that I travel with as far as my system and how I travel with my system. Stay tuned for the next video. It will be more so the makeup side and what products that I like to have with my airbrush system when I travel. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.